The following conversation with the spirit took place on April the 3rd, 1970. The spirit's name was George Harris, the medium was Leslie Flint, and questions were asked by George Woods and Betty Greene. The first question: what was it like on the other side? Much the same as being on your side as far as I can make out. There are certain differences, I suppose. Of course there are. We haven't got all the old worries and the headaches we had, like, well, finding wherewithal and all the rest of it. And our lives very much, in some ways, much the same. The same as far as I've seen. Everything's just as solid, just as real. Got our houses and places and interests. Of course, we don't have to go out to work. Nothing like that. I don't have to try and earn a few bob. Money don't mean nothing here. Money is no consequence at all. You are as you are and what you are. You have animals, but you don't have such things as cars. I ain't seen no bleeding cars. God blimey, who wants cars? We can go around here on our own 2 feet. How do you spend your time? Well, I'm interested in building. I was in the building trade, and I'm very interested in building, and I like my job. But here it's rather different. You do build with materials and things that are real and solid and all that, but, of course, you don't do it for money. You don't do it because you've got to do it. You do it because you like doing it, because you get pleasure and happiness out of it. Of course, I've been told by some of the people that where I am, it's sort of what you'd call the early stages, and that's why we have to build, as you say, but they do say on them higher planes, as they call it, that everything's created by thought. Well, I suppose it is. I don't know. Can't make head or tail of it myself. Where I am, it's as real can be. You have materials, and you work with materials. You create, as you say, with materials. I've seen practically a replica of many things which were common on your side. People don't just sort of sit and think about something and there it is. Wouldn't be much pleasure in that. I think there's a lousy way of carrying on myself. I think unless you have to make some effort towards it and build for it and work for it. After all, that's your only real pleasure and happiness, as far as I can see, is being, sort of creative. Doing it with your own, effort. And all this because they talk about these high places. I've heard them talk about. Maybe, I don't know, can't gotten onto all that. He was asked, how do you get your bricks for building? They're produced, places where they supply them, and you can collect them and you could use them and build them. Of course, it's a marvellous spot where I am. Beautiful spot. Houses, very nice places. Hundreds and thousands of people where I live, living in little communities, what you call, I suppose, villages. Some of them seem to have a place that looks, so they tell me, like what they had when they was on Earth. But of course, I myself, speaking for myself, I was more or less always in digs somewhere or other. Different places. I shifted about from and to and all the rest of it. Of course, I was very much a man of my own. I didn't mix a lot. I didn't even marry. Who did you build your houses for? Well, that depends on the individuals. I mean, there's no business firms or anything like that. Everyone who comes over here, I'm talking about where I am, if they had a trade or something rather special and they enjoyed it and it made them happy, they have the same thing here. You get the carpenters, you get the decorators and all that. And I suppose whatever you enjoy doing on Earth, you can still carry on doing it here. And they do say, as out over here, that you can do whatever you want to do until such time you begin to think a different way. I mean, I listen to these people from these other places, and they come and they talk, and they tell you this, that and other. But why should we give up? Why should I give up a condition, as you'd call it, of life where I'm perfectly happy and perfectly content, and I've got all sorts of things that interest me? As I say, I'm quite happy building, helping others who, were also in the building trade that was on Earth, and we build and work together. And our houses are as real and solid as yours, and some of them are real beautiful, Of course, the people that we build for are people that we like, people we're fond of, people who are anxious for something of their own, and their own way of thinking and idea. And it's all worked out. There are people who create here. There are people who, architects and all that. And they rough out things, work out things, and we follow it. Of course, there are some aspects that ain't the same. I mean, you soon realise you don't want to eat in the same way. And there ain't none of the other aspects of life which are common on Earth. It's funny. It's more like your world, but more perfect. without all the irritating things, and the things that, well, there's no aches, no pains, no illness. I ain't seen no hospitals or nothing like that. Although, there again, they tell me there are places like hospitals, but they say they're for mental cases, people that they're sort of peculiar in the head like. I can't imagine why they should be peculiar in the head over here. But then they do try and tell me, for instance, and others that have been to these meetings, where they say as how it's a state of mind. That everywhere you live's a state of mind. And if you think you want to do certain things, then you do certain things. But until you learn to sort of look out in a different way, then you carry on in the same old way. Well, I mean, that's all very well as far as it goes, but why should I want to change? I'm quite happy. I was a builder on your side. I got pleasure out of my work. I always enjoyed it. Do the same here. To me, the bricks I use are as solid as any I ever used on Earth. Mind you, I don't know where they come from. You ask me that, and I don't know. I suppose there must be places where they brick kilns. I don't know. But everything looks real to me. Everything seems real. And everything seems as much as it was on Earth. But that's what these others tell me. That it's a state of mind. I don't know whether they're trying to tell me that because of my state of mind. And I can't build unless I have bricks. And of all the things that are necessary like. And therefore, they seem to try and say to me, of course, I don't believe a word of it. They try and say to me that I do all the things out of my own state of mind. And the same applies to all the other people where I am. That we're working on a certain state of mind. Vibration or material vibration. And in consequence, everything seems what it is. But it ain't really, if you follow what I mean. Which seems to me as if they're trying to say that we're living in a state of illusion. Well, I don't believe that, Lark. I mean, the bricks I touch are real. I mean, I come and talk to you. It's as real as real. I've seen some of these other people. I mean, they're very nice, very pleasant and all that. I was never one for being talked to when I was on your side. I never used to go to church. I never used to go to the meetings and things like that. I've heard about spiritualists. That's what I thought you was. Well, you must be. Otherwise you wouldn't be talking to me. I mean, it's all a state of mind, I suppose. But then, a state of mind is as real as mine is. That ain't an illusion. How can it be? I mean, the bricks are as real, and the houses that we build are as real, and we go through the same old process as we did on Earth. I mean, we really build. Everyone does his own little job, and we all work together in harmony. And of course, you do eat. Funny that's one thing, I do think there's something in that. When I first came here, it seemed, I suppose, it was necessary for me to have certain things, meals and that. And now, I don't feel the urge so much. It's funny that, and in consequence, I don't seem to need to eat. You don't have to go to the toilet even. Isn't it funny? I mean, you have a darn good meal and you think, well, later on, you'd have to go to Joey, but you don't. That's the thing that shook me at first. Couldn't make head or tail of this. And then they said, oh, well, it's different. It ain't the same old physical body, as they call it. And it hasn't got the same sort of construction or whatever that is. And they said, really, this business that you want to eat and others like you feel the need for a cup of tea, it's only a state of mind. Of course, I suppose in some sort of way what they say is true enough. I suppose it is, but I'm happy as I am in my own natural surroundings and carrying on the kind of things that appeal to me. And I meet many people now that I've made pals with. I haven't met my mother and father yet though. I haven't met none of my relations. My old lady, she passed over, many years back now, and she was a bit of a religious woman. I always thought she was a bit nutty, on religion. Well, the old man, he died when I was a youngster. I had another brother. I ain't met him. He was more or less, about a year between us, I suppose. He went out to Australia. I'd never. He must be dead now, but if he is, I ain't met him yet. Funny that is, I ain't met none of my people. Of course, the old lady was real religious, so probably she's gone up on top, all that lark. He was then asked, do you have night and day? Yes, same as you do, night and day. Of course we do. I go to sleep, go to bed, wake up, the same as you do on Earth. Different seasons, rain and shine and all that. Oh yes, I can tell you a few things about that. It's all very natural. It's just the same. It's as if you have a replica of Earth. How did you feel when you first went over? Were you bewildered? Oh well, sort of, Were there trees? Did they live and die? Everything dies and lives, excepting people and animals. They don't die. And the trees have their seasons. To me, is exactly the same as on Earth. The conversation then ended. George then finished with, I can't manage it, perhaps I'll come some other time, later on. Bye-bye.